Hi, in this video I'm going to demonstrate some tools in Excel that allow you to create spreadsheets that are easier to interpret, and I'm going to specifically look at charting, and that'll be a review of what was covered in class, and then I'm going to look at spark lines, which was not covered in class at all, and when I'm done with that I'll show you some of the graphics tools that are available. Some of these you may be familiar with either from Excel or Word. Some may be new to you. And then finally we'll look at options for printing. So let's get started here, and let me explain what we have in the way of a spreadsheet at this point. I have a collection of data that we're going to pretend represents car sales, maybe at a used car lot or something during the first quarter of the year. And we have our cars broken down into categories: subcompact, compact, sedan, SUV, and truck. So we got 5 different categories of cars. And if this represents the data that I've collected over that time period, then I might be interested in finding the total sales for January, the total sales for February, and total sales for March, and storing those totals below each column. And then I might be interested as well in knowing what the total sales of the different car varieties are and storing those totals down column E. Now, what was demonstrated previously and what you might be inclined to do is to enter in a function right here, maybe a sum function, and then find the sum of this range. And that's a perfectly fine way to do it, but I'll show you a technique that has not been demonstrated in class, and this makes it a little bit faster and a little easier. So I'm going to use the quick analysis tool, and I'm going to start by highlighting this range of data. So notice that just these data points are being highlighted, not anything else in the spreadsheet. And as soon as I highlight the data, there's an icon that appears down here called the quick analysis tool. And if I click on it, I have a variety of things that I can invoke from this tool, one being totals. So I'm going to click on the totals option, and if I choose this option, it's going to allow me to immediately fill in the row beneath each column with the column totals, and I'll do that, make that selection. And then if I go right back to the quick analysis tool and choose under totals this option, it'll very quickly allow me to find the totals of each of the individual cars over that time period. And if I look at what it's done, it has written the sum function for me and then copied it into all the adjacent cells. So again, you could have done that yourself, or if you know how to use the quick analysis tool, that's a faster way of doing it. Alright, so let's move on now and take a look at charting. And let's say the first thing I want to do is to identify how much the different cars, categories of cars, have contributed to total sales. And I'm going to highlight the column headings along with the individual sales data, so I'm not going to include the totals in this. And by using these column headings, when I create my chart, Excel should automatically create a legend and identify my data by these column headings. So I'm going to go to the insert option after highlighting that, and then what I demonstrated in class, and I want to remind you of, is if you're not quite sure, how best to chart this, there's a tool that will give you recommended chart types. Okay, and you can sort of play around with what they're suggesting, and you know, that may be helpful, probably will be helpful. In my case, I'm going to create a bar chart. Now, my preference is a column chart, but since I demonstrated a column chart in class, I'm going to now demonstrate a bar chart, which basically just takes the column chart and flips it 90 degrees clockwise. And I have several varieties, so I'm going to use something very basic here. Make my selection, and you can see then that it's using the column headings to identify the data, and you can also see that chart is grossly undersized. You know, everything is so scrunched up you can't make a lot of sense of it. Now, if I want to change the title here, I can do that. I can put in you know, something like, I don't know, first quarter car sales or something. And I've got some options here if I want to change the style. Okay, so change style, I like this style. And I can add some elements. Maybe an element that I want to add is data labels, and I want to use callouts. Okay, so these work nicely if the chart is large enough. Now I can scale the chart by dragging on the sizing handles, and if I drag on any of the corner points here, it will scale the chart proportionally, which is usually a good thing to do. If I use these, either the horizontal or the vertical sizing handles, it'll distort the shape of the chart, so you need to keep that in mind. And it looks like there's so much information to communicate by way of these callouts that I need to make this chart much larger than what it is to be readable. So it may be that I need to increase the size so much that it's not going to fit well on this page. So what I'm going to do is move it to another page just by clicking on the active border first and then right-clicking and choosing cut. Now at that point, we've talked about copy and cut and paste. You know that the chart is on the clipboard, and I can go down to the bottom left part of the screen, click the plus button, create a new worksheet, and then right click on the worksheet name, which will be named something by default, and rename it. And in this case, I'll rename it charts. And then at this point, I can insert the mouse pointer somewhere in the spreadsheet and execute a Control V and paste the chart in. And then I can drag by the corner point and maybe stretch it out even more. And at this point, I'm able to read the data more clearly. Okay, so that should be a review. Now, let me show you something else. I don't remember, I think we worked with pie charts, but I'll use pie charts again here. Okay, so if I'm interested in knowing how much each monthly sales total contributed to the total sales for the quarter, then I might want to generate a pie chart so I can see what each month's proportion is to the total, and I then will need to interact with this a little bit differently. So what I'm interested in knowing is how much does, you know, January's totals contribute, how much does February's total, how much does March total contribute to the overall total. And so a pie chart would be appropriate, and the way to generate that pie chart will be to click on these cells and then control click thereafter and select very specific data points in the data set. So I'm going to start with my column headings, and I simply click and then hold down on the control key and keep the control key down while I click on February and March. So after I've clicked on those cells, I want to go down to where the corresponding totals are and click those totals in the same order. So I will continue to hold down on the control key and click, 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 and at this point I can release the control key, and I'm going to go to the Insert tab, click on it, go to Charts, and again I can look at what the recommended chart types are. Well, that didn't do much good, so I'm going to close that up, and I'm just going to choose a pie chart in this case, and I'll choose something very basic, and you see then I have pie slices that are identified through this legend, and I can expand that to make it a little bit easier to read, and also I can add elements to the chart. And the other thing I want to tell you, just so that in case this happens during the certification exam, maybe you generate a chart and then all of a sudden you can't find this add chart element, just go over and click on format. You'll find it on the told you wrong, on the design page, not format page, but the design page. Okay, that's happened to me before. And then I can choose some other chart style up here. Okay, and I might choose something like that this time. All right, and of course I can go in and edit things as well. All right, so I'll just drag this around and position it wherever I want, and I think I've demonstrated everything that you need to know about charting. Okay, so actually I'm done with this chart. I'm going to right click and I will cut it, get it off the page, and now we're going to take a look at something else. We're going to take a look at spark lines, which I'm not a huge fan of, but they're okay. And let's generate a spark line that will show the trend in the data for a subcompact car across this time interval. And the spark line then is going to be like a little miniature chart, and instead of being created and displayed on the entire page, it'll be created and put into a single cell. So here's what it's going to look like. I have subcompact January, February, and March sales highlighted, and if I go to the insert option and choose from the spark lines ribbon line, okay, I think this works particularly well with line charts, and I'll get a dialog box. It'll show me the data range based upon the highlighted data, so you want to highlight that data first and it'll automatically fill in, and then it asks where do you want to place your miniature chart, your spark line, and I'll want to put it in for this cell, for this range I want to put it in cell F2. So just go ahead and enter in the location range. It's going to be F2, and say OK to that. And there it shows me that subcompact cars have continued to increase in sales from January, February through March. And then once that is assigned, you can drag down and apply the same thing to the other data. And this looks interesting right here. So we start out with truck sales in January being 937,000, and then there's an increase in February. Okay, so here we are, February, and then there's a decrease in March that's almost the same as the sales in January, and so we get this V-shaped line. Okay, so I'll just kind of hold that off to the side for a minute and let you look at it, and that's the use of spark lines. You'll notice the spark lines don't have any legends or titles. They just simply graph the data points. Okay, so I think the next thing I want to demonstrate is the use of graphics. And I show you this because I've been told that this will be something you have to do in, satisfying the requirements for the certification exam. Now, myself, I'm not, a huge fan of this, and I think that from what I hear, it's kind of overemphasized in the certification exam. But nevertheless, I feel compelled to show you how to do this. So let's look at how we can create some predefined shapes. So if I go here to the insert page, and most everything I'm going to do, if not everything's going to come from the insert page. And maybe what I want to do is tag something right here and say, continual improvement in sales or something. I want that to be displayed by way of a call out. So what I'm going to do is go to the insert option, and shapes up here on the illustration ribbon, and I have a variety of call outs that I can use down here. I'll use this particular style, and it's a matter of dragging, and then I can relocate by dragging right on the active border. If I put the mouse pointer on the very end of this, I can point it in a different direction. If I don't want that solid background on the format page with that object being active, if I go to the format page, then I can choose something else here. And again, if I want to have some text that reads continual, I think it's a word. How about continued improvement? Exclamation, exclamation. Get all excited about that. And of course, this text can be, highlighted if I can get the focus on it. And I can go to the home page now, bold it, change the size to 14 or something like that. If I don't want this active border around it, I can go back to the format page with the object being active, and I can go to shape outline and choose no outline. And then when it appears on the form, it just more or less blends into the form. So that's an option you have. Also, with that being active on the format page, I can change the back color. So I can change the back color to black. And I could change the text. I may have to highlight that text first, so shouldn't have done that black. I'll highlight the text, go to the home page, and change the text color to yellow or something. Go Boilers. Okay, and in changing that outline, I've lost the tail that points to it, so I'm going to go back to the format page and change the shape outline to black again. All right, so hopefully you realize that you have these shapes that are available from the insert page, and you can find them here, and there are a variety. Okay, so if you want to draw some arrows and point to things, you can do that. Okay, and I just drew it the wrong way, so I can grab by the end point and do that. And I also have, in the way of shapes here, predefined shapes, lots of, you know, just unusual shapes that can be used for a variety of purposes. Now, if you know anything about flow charting, there are some flowchart symbols in here. If you were to go on and take a programming class, some of these symbols would make sense because they're used in modeling software. And then there's just a whole lot of other shapes that are, you know, for the life of me, I'm not sure why they're in there. Okay, so here's a case where I might want to make the shape fill yellow or something. All right, so that's an example of what you can do with the predefined shapes. I've been told that you should know how to insert pictures, so let's do that. Again, from the insert page, you've got an option for pictures, and if you choose pictures, then you can drill down into your local file system. Okay, so just happen to be accessing a folder where I have pictures, and here's a picture of my granddaughter, so I'll put that in. As I scroll about here, I see that that picture's pretty, I'm about to move the arrow down with the arrow key, and I see that that picture is a bit oversized. Okay, so again, if I click on the picture and if I drag it by the sizing handle in any of the endpoints, it'll shrink it proportionally. So if I'm working with a JPEG or something like that, it becomes even more important to always scale it by the endpoints. This is Pokagon State Park, in case any of you are familiar with it. And so I can shrink this picture down, and then I can move it around, and I also have the ability to rotate it. Okay, so you have a handle right here that you can rotate the picture. And I won't overdo this, but there we are. There's the picture. I put it over there, and I'm going to scroll back to that area, and then I'll demonstrate how to access online pictures. Okay, so again, if I go to the insert page, choose online pictures, it is, Microsoft has this developed so that you access the online clip art through their search engine Bing, and I will search for a dog picture. Hit the enter key. I get a number of dog pictures. There is a notice here: you're responsible for respecting others' rights, including copyright. Learn more here. Okay, so if you are questioning whether or not you can legally use any of the pictures, you can read the details. Okay, my understanding is that these are completely available for your use, and that's why there's a online portal through Bing to access them. Okay, so I will choose this dog with a double click. I guess I just click here and choose insert. It will download. Where it actually puts that file, I don't know. I'm guessing it's going to be in the download folder that is automatically created in Windows. So if you need to get to this picture for some reason, maybe to do some further editing or something. Now, if you attempt to further edit this picture, you may get into a thorny legal issue. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to let you read that. And if there's any question about what your rights are with this picture, you need to find, you know, an authoritative person or source to answer your question. And my suspicion is that you are perfectly okay to use the artwork in the form that you download it, but if you attempt to alter that in a graphics editor, then you're in an area that is a bit gray. Okay, so that's how we would insert a picture, both a picture in your file system and an online picture. And again, this can be rotated, these can be moved wherever you want them. And let's take a look at just a little bit more of the art, and let's look under the category of smart art. Okay, so you are business majors, and one of the things that's often used in business is an organizational chart, where we can look at who the people are in the organization and what positions they occupy. So let's use some smart art that would be useful for this purpose. And I find the smart art on the insert page on the illustrations ribbon immediately below where the predefined shapes are. And if I click on that, I'll get a dialog box, and I can either, scroll through all the smart art shapes that are available, or I can filter them if I know pretty much what I'm looking for, and in this case I do. So I'm going to filter for hierarchy, and I see then some charts that would be appropriate for creating an organizational chart, like the one labeled organization chart, and say OK to that. And then I have the ability at this point to move this around the page. Likewise, if I want to copy this, I could copy it to another page, but I'll go ahead and work with it on this page. And everything's pretty much self-explanatory. I enter in the text here, so let's say we put president here, and you should have the ability then to manipulate the text any way you want to. Okay, so you can bold it, for instance. You can change the colors, you can italicize it. So I'm not going to go into all those details, but you have that ability. You should also have the ability to, if you go to the format page, to change the shape fill. Okay, and you do. Okay, so I can change the color of the background, and to a large extent, I mean, you apply what you know, what you've seen demonstrated in maybe a slightly different context, and play around with it a little bit, and you should be able to figure out all the many things that you can do to work with this. Now, one of the things that is useful is to be able to generate additional nodes on the chart. So for instance, if I have a company and I have a president and several vice presidents, I might want to put in my first vice president's name. Let's say his name is VP1, and then if there's someone that is at that same level in the hierarchy, I can right click and choose add shape, and it will allow me to choose where that shape is inserted. So in this case, what do I want? Shape after, I think, would be the option. Okay, yeah, so it gives me that option, and then I could put in VP2 and so forth. Okay, so you have the ability to modify the this is called a tree structure sometimes, so you have the ability to modify the tree as you need to. All right, again, under Insert, and you click here, and there is a variety of smart art that is available, and I leave it to you to just sort of play around with this a little bit. So my understanding is that they are likely, there's 3 different versions of the certification exam, I think, and at least some of the versions of the exam will require that you know something about smart art. So I've shown you the basics, and you can play around with it, and the more you play around with it, the more familiar you will be, and the easier it will be to make your way through that certification exam. I also want to say what I've been told is that the certification exam is not just tremendously difficult, but they expect you to do a lot within a very short time frame. So you're only given, I think, 50 minutes to do the exam. So when you sit down, you have to familiarize yourself with the software very quickly, and by the software I mean the central point software that is used to conduct the exam. And so you're going to have to adapt to it very quickly and then follow the instructions. So time is, really, really critical, and you can't spend a lot of time experimenting. So my point here is the more you have used, for instance, SmartArt, the quicker you're going to be able to do whatever they are expecting you to do to demonstrate your competency, and the quicker you can move on to the next question. All right, enough of that. And one last thing. Let's take a look at, let's see, did I do word art? I guess I did word art. Okay, so I think I'm good with that. Word art being, just for completeness here, my mind's starting to drift. Here's word art. And again, you've got lots of different styles and things, and you can play around with that. Nothing, difficult about using word art at all, about as trivial as it gets. Okay, let's do one more thing here before I move on to printing. Let's go back and review conditional formatting, and I'm going to highlight the text here. Let's see, I'll just do this column right here. As soon as I highlight that range, I get the quick analysis tool, and you may have noticed this before, but you have the option for conditional formatting, some different conditional formatting options on this. So again, I can get to conditional formatting from the main menu up here, and that's the way we did in class, or I can get to it from the quick analysis tool. And I'm going to use this option, top 10%, okay? So if I choose this, the value that's in the top 10% of this range is right here. I'm going to clear that option, so I'm going to go back here to Home and Conditional Formatting and Clear Rules for the entire sheet. How's that? So I can use selected cell, use selected cells. I'll highlight that again. I was anticipating this working just a little bit differently. So under that top 10%, okay, it wants to default to 10%. So if I go back to, maybe that's what you want, but if I want to make it the top 33% or something like that, then it looks like I'm going to have to go to the home page the way we did previously, and I would maybe manage my rules, and I want to edit a rule, and at this point I can change, from top to bottom if I want to. I can also specify a different value here, so I'll put in 33% and say OK. And of course, if I use this technique, I can also change how I accentuate the data. But I'll say OK to that, and what am I left with? Same values. Let me try that a little bit more. One last time. Go to the home page, conditional formatting. I want to manage the rules. I want to edit an existing rule. I want to change this to, let's say, the top 51%. And I want to change the color so it's a little bit easier to see. I'll use yellow fill color and say OK to that, and OK to that, and OK to that. And there I have it. So my advice is try to use the the quick analysis tool, it doesn't give you everything you need, but a lot of the things that you're going to want are available immediately from that quick analysis tool. Be familiar with it, but also you're going to have to know details like how to manage rules, create rules, delete rules, how to apply predefined rules, how to write your own rules based on a formula, and those are things that you can review in your own time. All right, I think I am now left with how do we print. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff that is going to be in the way. So I'm going to control click on a lot of these graphics and attempt to get rid of them with one right click and cut. Okay, so they're all gone except for that guy. Now he's gone. Let's look at printing, and you'll notice that right now the spreadsheet has a dotted line, a dashed line separating columns D and E, and if I go to the page layout view and choose margins and then choose custom margins, I'll get the page setup dialog box, and you really need to know how to get to this. Okay, so I'll run through this a time or two just so you're familiar, but there's lots of things that you can see from here. If I go to the page tab, for instance, I can change the orientation and I can adjust the size. Okay, so I can have it so that it fits on any number of pages that I specify. So if I have a large spreadsheet and I want to make them fit on 2 pages, then I could say fit and bump that to 2, or I can scale it, and so if I am satisfied by shrinking things down, I might make this like 75%, and then do a print preview and see what it looks like. And the print preview shows me the total columns, so that's one way to control it. I'm still in portrait orientation, but I was able to scale that down to the point where I'm able to fit everything on one page with very small print. So you need to be familiar with that and how to access it. So again, if I am looking at my spreadsheet and I go to the page layout page, click on the page layout tab, choose margins, custom margins, I'll get this page setup dialog box, and I have a variety of things that I can do. So I can set the margins. All right, another way of doing this would be if I'm a little tight on horizontal spacing, then I could reduce my left margin and my right margin. I have the option of centering on the page, either vertically or horizontally or both. And header and footer information. So if I want something to display in the margin area at the top or bottom, okay, if I want it to be at the top, I can enter in header information. And there's some things that I can just put in either nothing, or I can put a page number to start it. I can also put in text. Should be able to put text in here. Custom header, left section, center section. Let's say this is my header, and say OK to that, and say OK to that. Now I won't see it immediately here, but if I go back to page layout, margins, custom margins, and print preview, I suspect I'll see it now. Okay, so there it is. This is my header. You can see it up there. So I can put page numbers in the header. I can put in comments. Something that I have done on occasion is put the file path to the file in there. So if I print a copy of this thing routinely and then want to go back and edit it at some future point in time, and I forget where that file is, I could put in something like C:\work/ January 2001, and that could represent a sequence of folders where that file is stored in my file system. So you can figure out what you want to use it for, but the header and the footer are both options that you have available to use, and you can again get to those by going to the page layout page and then choosing custom margins. And let's see, what else do I want to add to this? I can change the landscape orientation. Something that I like to use from time to time is grid lines. So when I look at the spreadsheet data on the screen, I can see the boundaries of all the cells and all the columns. But when it prints, it doesn't print that way. I don't see the grid lines unless I go to the page setup dialog and choose grid lines from the sheet page. And there's also an option here for rows to repeat at the top and columns to repeat at the left. So if I have a spreadsheet that's going to, maybe it has thousands of rows, and every time, it will not print on one page, and every time a new page prints, I might want to have my column headings print on that new page. Always, maybe my column heading is in row 2, then I can always say something like, let's see, it's in row 1 in this case. So I can indicate by just clicking out here, row 1, say OK. And then if I print multiple pages, that will always appear above the text. Hopefully that's clear. All right, I think I have told you most everything that I know to tell you about setting up your spreadsheet so it's easier to read and easier to visualize the data. So I will conclude this video, and we'll make it available on YouTube so you can start looking at it immediately.